And to record on this computer. All right, good morning, everybody. Today we're going to go over the week 6 Django review. And what we're going to do for this review is I'm going to go through a Django project. Again, they make a complete CRUD application from the front all the way to the back end. And if you guys have any questions over anything that I do, please feel free to just stop me and address any concerns that you may have. So let's do this. First, I'm going to start my Python project. Or actually, I'm going to make my virtual environment. Now I'm going to activate it. I want to install Django. After I install Django, I also know that I need to install CyclePG2 to be able to talk to my database. No, it's trying. And we also need to be able to install python.env so that I could hide my files later on. Perfect. So now I can start my project. I'm going to call mine book storage. And inside of book storage, you can see that I have my application. That I have my project. Now I can create an application. Oh, you guys want to start app. All right, perfect. Now I have my app. I want to make sure that I create my directory for static files. I'm going to need a static CSS. I'm going to need a static JS. And now I'm going to start making those files. So touch, static, CSS, main CSS, and touch, static, JS, and main JS. All right, so now we see static, and we got our folders there. I'm also going to need a URLs inside of my application. So let's go with book app and urls.py. I know that my application is also going to need templates. Those templates are going to need pages. So now let's make that HTML. I was told this would be in double time. Oh, are you telling me that I'm slow? Wow. Templates, and then let's go with layout.html. I'm also going to need books. And I'm going to need a book. Okay, so now I can open up my book and I see there that I have my 3 inside of pages. Oh, hello, I put them in the wrong file. All right. So we know that these 3 are supposed to be inside of pages and they're currently not. So let's move them real quick. All right, perfect. And now I also want fixtures inside of my book app. In this fixtures, I'm going to need authors. I'm going to need genres. And I'm going to need books. Now I want to make sure that I separate them because technically my books cannot exist unless there's already authors and genres to create a book from. All right, fixtures, awesome. So now let's start connecting my project with everything that I am trying to use. I'm going to install my application. Once I have my application installed, as I scroll down, I want to make sure that I use Postgres. So let's go with PostgreSQL. And let's make this into my book app DB. Okay. And I need a static files there's. That's going to be static. All right, now that I created that, I want to make sure that I create the DB. So I called it book app DB. I have my DB created. All right, awesome. So now I can move over to my URLs. I'm going to include. Inside of my include, I can bring in my following path, which is just going to be an empty path. Run include. Tell it that I want to include the book app URLs. Now that that's complete, I can go to my actual URLs inside of my book storage. And I'm going to clean up my workspace real quick. And I'm going to import from Django hello URLs. I want to make sure that I import path. And here I'm going to bring URL patterns, path, views, .home. And here, let's go with from this file, import views. Awesome. So now there's a couple of URL paths that I already know that I'm going to use. So I'm going to bring them in real quick. I already know that there's going to be a home. I know that I'm going to want to see books by genre. I know that I'm going to want to see books by author. Ooh, and I am prepending a slash. I do not want to do that. And I also know that I'm going to want to see an individual book. All right. So there's my 4 paths. I got my home, book by genre, et cetera, et cetera. So now let's go over to my views and construct those functions really quickly. So we have home. Let's do pass. We have book by genre. And that's going to take in request and ID. We have book by author, which is also going to take in request and ID. And lastly, we have book. All right. And so now let's start connecting my layout.
Your book by author has a typo, unless it's a Halloween book.
Perfect. Thank you so much. And actually, did I name it book on itself or did I name it books? Books. Perfect. Thank you so much. All right. And let's do this. So we got the HTML5 boilerplate that I want to make sure I bring in. This is going to be a static. Oh, excuse me. This is going to be a load static tag. Inside of my title, I'm going to call it book storage. Here's where I want to bring in static, but I want to make sure I use the keyword, and I want to use CSS main.css. Oh, hello. Let's bring in an H1. Storage. And for my script tag, same thing. I want static JS main.js. All right, there's a couple of other things that I'm going to want to use. So let me bring up a Google. And let's drop that in so that I can reference it. All right. I know that, no thanks. I know that I'm also going to want to use Axios. So let's look up the Axios documentation. There it is, getting started. I'm gonna need this script for Axios. All right, so there goes the Axios script, and then Bootstrap docs. That's the other thing that I'm going to want to use. Introduction to Bootstrap, quick start, perfect. And let me see where. Okay. I don't believe this is the correct one, but we can try use it and see how it goes. So I'm going to copy this link tag for the CSS, and I'm going to make sure that I bring it in before my own CSS. And I also want to make sure that I copy this JS scripts. Okay, and that's pretty much it for the actual setup. The last thing that I need is going to be a block content. Oh. All right. Let's bring in books, and let's say that I want to extend. And what I want to extend is going to be pages, layout.html. I'm going to bring in my block content. And inside of that block content, I just want to say books. So let's do an H2 and book. And let's make that books plural. Why are you angry here? Oh, that's why you're angry. Okay. Perfect. So now to actually render it in my views, again, I want to return, render, take in the request. After taking in the request, I'm going to tell it which template I want to render. And in this case, I want to do books.html. And currently that is everything that I need. Now that that is made, oh, actually, gotta make my models here. Okay, so for models, let's see what we got. We want, as I previously mentioned, we want an author. It's gonna take in models.model. Hello. And this models.model, there you go. That makes more sense. This model is going to take in a first name argument, and that's going to be a char field, a max length of 100, and we want a last name. With a max length of 100 as well. Okay, I want to give it a dunder method. And when I'm going to have a return, it's just going to be an F string of the first name. And the last name. Now that I have that, I can now bring in the genre. And the genre, same thing, is going to be a model. And the only thing that I really need for this is going to be a title. Yeah, give it a max length of 250 in this case. And then now I can finally start creating a book. And in this book, I'm going to want a title. I am also going to want a quantity of how many books I actually have. I'm going to give it a default of 1, just in case I want to create a new book. And now I need a genre. which is going to have a relationship with genre from up above. So now I want a foreign key relationship, and in this case, I want genre. And I want it to have an argument for on delete, which is going to be models.set null. And then lastly, I am also going to want it to be nullable. Otherwise, it won't let me set it to null. All right, and now we got authors. And that one is going to be a many-to-many relationship. And in this many-to-many relationship, I'm going to want an author. And this author is going to be a related name of book. That way I can see all of the books that are living with an author. Perfect. So there's my data, there's all my models, my views are set up, got an application somewhat linked. So now let's go manage PY and let's just make migrations. Okay, so making migrations was successful. Now I can migrate. Perfect. I can run the server. And I can now go to my local host. And I see book storage and my books from my tag. Awesome. Now that I have that done, I already have some pre-built fixtures that I'm going to be using here. So I'm just going to bring those in. So here's our author. As we see, we have bookapp.author with its primary key. Then we got a first name and a last name, which is exactly what our models is expecting. First name and last name. Okay, great. And let me just clean up this workspace again. I'm just going to leave my models up on the side so I can make sure that the fields match. Next, I'm going to go into my genres. And in my genres, I'm going to bring in 3 easy, simple genres that I can use. So we got bookapp.genre and primary key and the title, so it matches. Okay, perfect. And now books. All right, so in books, I have models.book. Perfect. I have a title, I have a quantity, a genre, and author. Instead of author, we want authors. So let's make that change. Okay. Easy. So now let's go ahead and make those migrations. Well, let's load the data into our database. So load data, and let's start off with author. So I got 5 objects from one fixture. Now I want genre. I got 3 objects from one fixture. And lastly, I want books. And there it is, 5 objects from one fixture. Okay. And just to make sure that I know that's actually in my database, let's go with PSQL book app B. I enter it. If I run my relationships, I can see that everything's in there. And then lastly, let's go with select all from book app, and I want book in this case. And there we see that we got ID, we got the quantity, we got the genre, and we don't see authors here because this would be technically a join table to actually be able to see the authors. All right, so now I know that everything's in there. I don't have to worry about the actual data anymore. So now let's close book.json, genre, and the models. So now let's bring in some BootStrap. I probably shouldn't have closed it. Let's see, BootStrap docs. I apologize, it's my dog in the background protesting, excuse me. And let's see, so we got some content layout. There you go. Okay, so this is the tags that I wanted. So let's fix that in my layout real quick. Link relationship style sheet. Okay, so must have been that one up top. Okay. And then the other three that came from BootStrap were my script tags. So let's erase those and replace them with this. Awesome. So now I got that going. Let's see what we can do here. Go Bootstrap, go to docs. Just gonna want to get a card. So let me Command F card here. I see card. I don't have images, so I don't really need that card. What else you got? This one looks pretty nice. Yeah, I'll take this one. Awesome. Layout doesn't matter. Moving into books. And let's bring a for loop. So now I want a for book in books. Now I can tell it what it is that I want it to do. And let's just do book. Book. Title. All right. I know this looks weird now, but we're about to go into the views and go ahead and address that. So, where are my views? Views, here you go. Now I'm gonna go ahead and bring in, how much time do I got? Okay, I'm making pretty good time, that's not bad. So in books, I'm gonna go ahead and create a book info array, and this is ultimately what I'm going to pass into, sorry, a list. This is ultimately what I'm going to pass into my actual template. And in this book info, I want books. I'm going to make it equal to, oh, I might want to import them models. Models for all book the objects prefetch. There you go, prefetch related, and that related field that I wanted to prefetch is going to be author. All right, so if I look at my models, I know that it has a many relationship here. Now, in order to grab author, I need to make sure that I prefetch that information. So it's just basically running like a joining table query to be able to get that information. All right. Now that I have that, if I go and I say for, I don't know, book in books.
Sorry, could you please remind me what was prefetch related?
What was prefetch? Could you say that one more time?
What does like prefetch related to here?
Oh, what is prefetch related to? Yeah, so basically it's going to go into my books model. And for every instance of book, it's going to grab the related authors to that book because I have a many-to-many field. So if I have 3 authors for this book, when I run prefetch, it's going to grab that information for me so that I can access it in my views. Does that make sense?
Okay, yeah, thank you.
Awesome. All right, so we got book, objects, prefetch, author, so boom. All right, now that I have that, I want to actually be able to see this author. So let's go with printing, and I want to print book dot authors dot all. Okay, so now I'm going to print this so that we could see it, but actually I'm also going to go with dot values. I think I could do that, and that way we could actually see each individual dictionary in there. Okay, books might freak out because I have this for in loop, so I'm just going to comment it out for the time being. Okay. And now if I go to book storage, go to models, might want to run my server. If I refresh it, it's going to freak out and tell me that I did something wrong. So let's see. Boom, author doesn't exist because I didn't name it author. I named it authors. All right. Okay, so now loaded correctly. And here I can see each individual author. So we got Francisco, or ran the same query a couple of times, actually. Oh, that's right, because it's doing it for every single book. So for every single book, it's running a query, and every book comes back with their individual authors and per book. I hope that makes sense. Okay. So now that I have this information, I can say book info or M4 because I accidentally misspelled that. And I want to append a dictionary. In this dictionary, I'm going to want the book, and that's just basically going to be the actual book, right? And now I want the authors, and that's going to be the book, the author. Oh, hello. I want to put a comma there. Book, the authors, the all. No longer need that. And instead, once this for loop is over, I'm going to print my book info. Okay, I go to refresh it. So now we see that book info is an array with the key of book. It specifies which book I'm working with, and then it gives me an authors, which has an array of authors. Awesome. Now that I have all of that completed, I can go ahead and render these books back into my front end. Now that I've rendered those books back into my front end, and I take off these comments, I go to refresh it, type per context, be a dict rather than a list. Nice. Other done. Let's see, what do we have here? We have books. So let's go into views. Currently, I'm trying to pass in a list. So let's fix that real quick. All right. Perfect. So now we see the book itself. We have Code Better, Pooter, Gates of Fire, Scary Stories, Bad Variable Naming. All right. So now I got my cards. Now let's actually show some information in my cards. So now that I got that going, I want to make another for loop. And let's say for author in book the authors, and that's what I named it. Let's check in the views. Yes, I named it authors. All right, in book the authors. What I want this to do is I want it to bring in and H4 or yeah, let's do H5 here, and let's trim this into an H4. All right, so this H5 is now going to have author dot first name and author dot last name. If I refresh it, so now we see the authors. We got Francisco, we got Adam, and we see that we have multiple authors for each one of these individual books. Awesome. Let's bring in the genre. Book, dot genre. And let's bring in the quantity. Okay, so genre doesn't have an str method, it looks like. Oh, actually, I want that genre.title. So let's do that. There it is. Boom. Okay, perfect. So now I'm running my information in for my front end template, and I could move on into my next process. So let's go into the next URL. I'm no longer going to need my model, but now I can start working with Axios and start working with, actually, let's go into rendering information. So now where is my, what I need? So if I want it by, not my models, I apologize. If I want by URLs, let's go into author. If I want my books by author, I know it's going to take in an integer ID. So let's say authors, or author is equal to author objects get, and is the and this get. I'm gonna make it ID's ID. If I want books by, oh, I have this in the incorrect spot, so I'm just going to name it author books, and that's going to be equal to author.books.all. And let's just bring in the values so that I can see them. And let's print that. So author books, and let's just bring in an HTTP response. So from Django, the HTTP. And I want a JSON response as well. So I want to return HTTP response. Let's make that an H1 of hello. Promise I could type eventually. All right. So that's great, but this is actually not being triggered yet because my template doesn't have a link to it. So now let's go into my books. We're seeing them by author. So here, let's do an A tag. And in this A tag, I want to make sure that the href is equal to books, or sorry, it's by author. I think it's author. Let me check the URL path. Yeah, so we got author. And after author, your opening tag had a slash. Yes, thank you. And then I'm going to pass author.id. So now when I go to refresh this, we see that they turn into links. If I inspect that link, boom. And let's go into the actual HTML. Okay, where's the, oh, here you go. So now we see author/2 is on there. And I also want to make sure that I end it with a slash. Okay, so if I click on Adam Cahan, it's going to tell me that it doesn't exist. And why is it telling me that? Let's see. Not found, and it's because I prepended a slash, which is weird. That should not be an issue. Or actually, let me just check my URLs. Boom. It's because I didn't put an ending slash. So this is correct. Let's go back, refresh it, click on Adam. All right, attribute error, author object has no attribute dot books. So now let's see what the related name was in my models. Models related name is book. So now if I go back to my views, I can change books into book. I refresh it. Now I see hello there. And here's my query set of all the books belonging to that one author. Awesome. So now that I have the query set of all the books belonging to that one author, I can return an HTML template. And I'm not going to be able to use the same template because my keys. Oh, actually, I'm incorrect. So now what I want is I want to be able to view each individual book by author. So let's go with basically the same code here. But instead of running the prefetched function, because I already know the authors, I'm going to say author books. Actually, no, because that is an array. So now, how would I want to do this? Let me see. That makes sense. Okay, so now that I have this, I'm gonna erase all of this. And what I want to do is I just want to return all of those books. So let's do data is equal to, let's have books. And here, let's do author. Or actually, let's do author.objects.get, where ID is equal to ID. And then I want the books, just to make sure that I did name it that. No, I actually named it book. So let's turn that into book. And then I want the all. And that is what I'm going to pass into the template. But now I want to make sure that I can access the specific keys now. So let's go to books, and let's make a little bit of a ternary statement. Okay. So let's make an if statement. Let's bring that down. Let's turn this into the condition. And now let's have an else. And I'm basically going to want to re-render the same exact HTML, but it's going to have a different access key of just book.title, because the key itself is still going to be books. Yeah, perfect. Okay, there's going to be no book.authors. I don't have to worry about that. And here I have to say, again, another if statement. And I want to make sure that if it's book.title. So if it's able to access something through that key, I want it to do that behavior. Else, I want it to access it like this. Okay, awesome. So now my views, it renders the page. If I go to reload, got a syntax error. So could not parse the remainder from book.title from book.title. All right, that is why there's an if statement there. And it's So let's see what we got here. Could not remainder with that title. So it looks like here we have a it's trying, we got to pass a conditional in there. So let's add that in there. Let's make it nested. It's false, or in this case, it would be true. And here, let's do nested is false. Okay. Now that I have that, what I can do is in this if block is I can ask it if nested. Okay. So couldn't read nested, could not parse the remainder of nested. And now let's see why that is. Have nested, have views, books by author. What's the current URL that I'm trying to access? Okay, it's going into author. Got author, got nested. Oh, I know why. It's already in tags, so I shouldn't need to render it that way. Okay, that is causing quite a bit of trouble. So instead, what I'm going to do is instead of using this if statements, I am going to simply make a separate template. And for okay. So now I'm going to grab this. How about we pause for 4 minutes-ish? Oh, that's right. You guys have your call. Huh? I'll leave it up to you guys. Do you guys want to pause or you guys want me to just finish this specific one? Or we could come back and finish it. It's up to you guys. Okay, cool. Then we'll pause here. Thank you so much, everyone. I hope that you're getting something out of this, and I'm getting a lot of silence while I'm working through it. So I'm assuming that you guys are actually able to see it and understand everything. Please make sure to ask questions if you have any. Okay, so I actually ended up deleting the specific actual layout, and the way that I fixed it was this nested argument actually works if you pass it in. So I'm passing it in into the books or the home with nested is true. That way it knows that it's supposed to actually, since it is nested, it's going book.book. If it is not nested, it's just going book.title. Right, and the reason why it wasn't working before is because I was putting nested inside curly brackets. When I took off the curly brackets, I failed to go one page back and then reload the page. I was just trying to re-render the page inside the same spot. So it wasn't actually updating the information that I was trying to render. All right, so now let's continue forward. Now we can see here, if I click on Francisco, I can see all of the books that Francisco wrote. If I go back and I click on Adam, I can see the books that Adam wrote. Let's see, Benjamin wrote 3 books because he's hardcore. And yeah, so that's going to take care of the seeing books by authors. Now let's see books by genre. So we got our URLs, we got genre. So let's go to books. And by seeing books by genre, right here. So here we'll put an A tag. We'll make it the href. That's going to be equal to genre slash book dot genre dot ID. It's going to close it. Close the anchor tag. And then otherwise, this anchor tag down here is going to have the href of book.genre.id. And this is gonna totally miss the beginning point of genre slash book ID. Close the A tag. And now we close the anchor tag. And now if I refresh it, we see genre there, turns into a link. When I inspect it, we got the ID for the genre included in my link. Okay, perfect. So now if I go into my URLs, I'm passing it into genre with the integer ID. It goes into views. And now I can go into my books by genre. And I'm just going to separate these a little bit so that I can know that they're different. And now let's grab the genre. So now I want books is equal to, and actually let's grab the genre first. I want to get the genre, so ID is equal to ID. That's going to bring in the genre that I'm currently grabbing. And I want to bring all the books that belong to that one genre. Filter, and I'm going to filter it where genre is equal to genre. All right, so now that that's complete, I can now create my data element. I can say that the key of books is books, and that the key of nested, eventually I'll learn to put commas, is false. And now I can render the same exact HTML that I have here. So I could grab that and put that in. So we'll see that it's not nested and render the proper information. So I click on Academy, and here we have Code Better, it's academic. We have Pooter, which is also academic. Let's see, history. We only have one history. Horror, we have two horrors. All right, perfect. Now that I got those done, we only have one endpoint left, and that's going to be seeing an individual book. But for seeing an individual book, let's see. Yeah, let's just make the link for the book in itself. So let's go to, where is books? Here you are. All right, so books, where's the title? Title. Here you are. Let's make another anchor tag. And I'm just going to space that out real quick. The href is going to be book.id. Oh, sorry about that. So this is going to be book/book.book.id. End it with the slash, close it. Now close my anchor tag. Okay, and then I'm going to repeat that same process. Probably want to take off this space. But that's all going to be repeated right down here. Except that it will just be book ID. Okay, that goes to my URLs. I come back to my view. And in my view, what I want to do is I'm pretty much going to need the same exact template right here so that I can still see the authors and all the information that belongs to that one book. So now I'm going to say if request.method color is equal to, and I'm going to check if this is a get. So now if it's a get, it's going to do the following. But instead of doing this number where I'm grabbing all of this information, I'm also going to say I am also going to say that I want to get a specific one where ID is equal to ID. All right. And I want to turn nested is true. That's perfect. Okay. So now we see that, click on Pooter. All right, we got book object is not iterable. All right, so book object is not iterable. Where is that coming from? In line 48 for book in books. Okay, perfect. So we do not need that part. And if that's the case, then technically we don't need this. So let's turn that here. And let me just restructure this real quick. Okay, so I'm going to grab the book. I'm going to grab one specific instance of it, and let me rename that to book. Then the book info is going to be the specific book, and the authors are going to be the book.authors.all. After that, I can return it and to receive just one. So let's refresh that. I click on Pooter. All right, so it's going through, but I made it nested because it is true. So let's see, what can we do here to fix that? Let's close that. Refresh it, click on Pooter. All right, so there's a problem accessing the information. So let's see what that is. Okay. So if it's nested, this is specifically what I'm looking at here. And I am telling it to go into book. Well, first of all, it's going, because it is nested, it's going for book in books. But I don't have books. Perfect. Oh, actually, yes, I do. Books is right here. Never mind. And I could just rename that actually, because okay. So for book in books, there's only one instance of it. And I guess I could just turn it into a list just in case it needs to be a list. So it enters the book. After that, I'm trying to go into book and give me the book information. Ooh, that might be why it's a little weird. There you go. Okay, so now I could see Adam. So I'm seeing the authors. The info is being rendered correctly, but this part isn't. And I think it's because of that extra nest. There you go. Perfect. So got to turn it into a list so it can iterate through it. It goes book and then goes into the book.authors.all. Nice. Okay, so now I can see all the information. So now we could get into the actual CRUD part of the application. So let's start bringing some Axios and some buttons. So let's see. We need I think we need 3 buttons. Button and all right, and from those 3 buttons, we're going to need to close the button. And we're going to need an onClick function. Okay, so we're going to need to, let's see, return a book. We're going to need to check out a book. And we are going to need to delete a book. All right. And this is where Axios comes in. So I already imported Axios. Let's say const, let's see, add book, or actually, let's just go with return book. Or you know what? Let's go with alter book quantity and put it all within the same function. And that's going to need the ID and the current quantity. And then the method, whether I want to add or subtract. And after that, I'm going to say if m is equal to add, then quantity is going to go up 1, else quantity is going to go down 1. Okay, now I can say Axios.put, passing the HTML, I mean the URL of book, along with the, that's the wrong quotation marks. So let's do that over again. So we got book slash, now we got the $sign. This is where the ID comes in. Okay, now I need the body of the request, and the body of the request is going to be quantity, and quantity is going to be equal to the current quantity that I'm trying to pass. And now I just need a dot catch. If there's an error, it will tell me what the error is. And a dot then, where I will use the response. And if the response is successful, then I'm going to refresh the page for now. Okay, so there's for altering the book. So now let's do one for deleting the book. I'm only going to need the argument of ID. And what I'm going to do is send a delete function. So Axios, delete, copy the same URL. My delete function is not going to need anything else other than that. It won't need a body. So I can just go straight into my dot catch, bring in the error, alert the error, and then my dot then. And if response.data.success. Okay, I'm just gonna go ahead and hook myself up here. Okay, so now I have my 2 functions already built in, and now let's bring it into the method. So we got alter book quantity. So in my books, in the alter book quantity, I'm actually going to have to put this in a nested area as well. So let's we'll put it here for now. And in the alter book quantity, I'm going to want for the ID to say book ID. For the quantity, so sorry, this should be book ID. Then the quantity should be book dot quantity. And then the method should be A for adding. And just to make sure, we got A in capitals. Okay. Perfect. So we got A for adding. Why don't you like that? That's fine. Okay. Awesome. And I'm going to have the same exact function being called here. The only difference is going to be the parameter, which will be with an S. And lastly, will be the delete function, which I believe, I'm just going to grab the title. Oh, hello. Mouse is freaking out. Delete a book. And here we want book.id. Okay, perfect. So again, because I'm accessing those buttons through different ways, I'm going to have to nest them. Okay, so that's if it's not nested. Now, if it is nested, I can't just access them this way. I need to add another book in there. Okay. So now if I go to refresh the page, we see that. If I go into return and I inspect it, we see 1.5 in A, we see 1.5 in S, just like we wanted to. And then to delete, we just see the actual ID. Fantastic. So that's going to go to my URLs. Awesome. In my views, this doesn't have any permissions to receive any type of request, so I'm going to have to bring in that in. So from Django.views decorators .c serve import CSR event. Perfect. I got it right. So we got the CSRF exempt. And that's on the wrong spot. So let's take that off. Okay, so CSRF exempt. Perfect. And now let's put this all into a try block. I want to accept exception as E and print E. And I wanted to return a JSON response of success. Of false. This should be indented as well. And outside the indentation, so here, we'll do success is true. All right, so now let's do if request dot method is equal to put. So now if it's a put function, what else can we do here? Top of my book. And I actually want that inside of the try block. So my book is equal to book.objects dot call get where ID is equal to ID. So that's just going to give me one in this put. I can now alter it. Oh, but I also want to be able to see the response. So I want to get JSON. And I probably just want to get the body as well. Actually, I could do that. Oh no, What just happened here? I'm so sorry. There you go. Okay, so we got the book. That's the get. I wanted to move that. Oh no, I didn't. Okay, so I got my book. And in my book, I wanted. Let's get the body actually. JSON.loads. And once I load it, I want to ensure that I load the request body. And then I'll print that request for you guys, that way we could see it. And what I want to do after that is I want to tell my program to grab the quantity and make it equal to body quantity. Then I want to make sure I save it. And then it's going to return that. Okay, awesome. So let's refresh this. I click on checkout. All right, so there's the body quantity. It was true. It was able to change the quantity. It ran the save, the success. And now if I scroll all the way to the bottom, we see code better, still the same authors, but now instead of 5 copies, I have 4. If I go to return, now I have 5. Checkout, 4, return, 5, and so on. Awesome. So that takes care of my put method. So now I want to make sure that I go over my delete method. And in my delete method, I just want my book.delete. Okay. So now if I refresh it and I delete it, now code better is just completely gone. Okay. So that just went over the RUD of CRUD, and all we need left is the create portion. And this is where we're going to work with forms. And I think I could get it done in that timeline. So let's bring out the layout and start working with forms. So first I want to start a form. I want to give it an action. Well, first I want to give it a method actually. The method is going to be post. The action is going to be to the empty URL. And then this form is going to take in an input for title. We're going to need a select tag. And this select tag is going to have the option of academic. And actually, let's give this a name as well. Django. Okay. Then we got an option, and that's going to be horror. I think the last one is history. Okay, so now I can run the select portion, and I want to make sure that this is actually a closing tag. It's value. Okay. So there's all my genres. What else do I need? I want to make sure that I get all the possible authors as well, right? So let's get the authors. And since it's a many-to-many, we're going to need to create and sorry, this one is going to be called a field set. name is going to be authors. And then let's create an input type checkbox with the value of, let's say, Francisco. And input. Let's just copy and paste these here. But instead of Francisco, we want Adam. And last but not least, let's do Skyler. Okay. Then I'm going to need an input type number for quantity, because I believe I haven't included that yet. With the max being 5 and the min being, I guess, 1. And then it needs a name of quantity. Input type submit. Now, because I'm working through a form, I know this is also going to need a CSRF token. Okay, that was a lot of coding. Hopefully everything went well. My checkboxes need labels, of course. Why wouldn't they? So let's do that real quick. Da-da-da. Okay. Now we need a label. It's going to be a 4. Francisco, and the label will be Francisco. Label. All right. There's probably a much more efficient way of doing this, so I apologize everyone for the struggle. Okay. Nice. So now I have my labels, I have my checkboxes. I can choose between academic, horror. If I go here, I can change the number of the things that I need. Fantastic. And if I click submit, it'll send a post request to the empty URL. So now let's see what the empty URL is going to do. So now we need to go to views. Home is what the empty URL responds to. So now I'm going to say if request dot method is equal to post, and I want to, let's just for now print request. Post. Boom. Let's make it horror. We want Adam and Skyler. Let's make it 2. Let's click submit. All right. So here we can see we have the CSRF token, the middleware token. It comes in from the query. Here we see, oh, that's also the query that's part of the CSRF token. So now we see the title, which is the gibberish that I put in. We see the horror. We see Francisco and Skylar and quantity. And I apologize, everybody, but I am not going to be able to finish the view before going to lunch. And I think this is a good spot to pause. So let's call it for lunch. Let's go from lunch from 12 to 1. Let's come back at 1 and then just finish this view if anyone would like. This part will be optional. I believe Nick is about to release your assessment here soon. So if you come back at 1 and you watch me go through the view, fantastic. If you decide that you want to take on it on your own, feel free to do so. If I do come back at 1 though, and there's like no one here or just 1 or 2 people here, then I'm probably not going to finish the view because then at that point I would be wasting everyone's time. All right. Awesome. Thank you so much, everybody. Have a good one. Enjoy your lunch.